Hi, it's Anne. Thank you for stopping by. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today. Instead of putting things together, we're going to be taking things apart. And I just got a few new old books at the thrift store, and I was getting ready to do my usual harvesting of them. And I thought, why don't I turn on the camera and let me take you through my process when I get an old book. There are certain things that I do every time. Of course, every book is happily very different, but there are some things that I do almost every time. And I thought it might be interesting to you if you're building up your stash of old book pages or old ephemera that you can get from old books. The first thing before I even purchase a book at a thrift store, I sounds a little gross, but I give it the sniff test. If there's even the slightest bit of moldy mustiness to it, it does not come into my home. Uh, I know people can have had good luck with putting it in a bag with baking soda. I've had not consistent results with that, so I just choose to bring home things that are perfectly welcome to smell like an old book, but not a musty old book. Thank you very much. I also check if something is really rare or really special or like a first edition Louisa May Alcott something or other. I might purchase that to bring home, but I would never cut it up. Books, many books are old. Only a very few books are rare or valuable. So I am confident and comfortable with my decision to purchase old but not rare books and use them in my art projects. So I kind of get the specialness out of the way. And then I bring them home. And occasionally they sit around for a while. But the very first, oh, let me tell you first what I have around here. Of course, my friend the utility knife. I often use a little a portable, small size cutting mat that I can slip into a book in case I want to cut something out without shredding the page behind it. I'm going to be making a few labels, and so I have a few ink pads, and I've got some acrylic blocks here that are going to fall all over the place. And I have my stamps, my label stamps. You've seen me use these before. These are very inexpensive off of Amazon, just little frame stamps. I treated myself the other day and got another set that's slightly different size, so I have a little more variety there. I'm eager to use this little tiny one. I think that'll be a fun label. Anyway, first things first, let's get in. And we may not make it through all of these. We don't have to. This is a book about the simple life. And having looked through it, I'm not certain that life could ever be quite as simple as Charles Wagner thinks it could be, but he wrote this in 1901, so, a different time. The first thing that I look for is I remove the fly leaves, and they usually can just tear right out. There's, especially in the older books, they're a little bit thicker than we're used to today. They're a wonderful quality, lots of natural caramelization, and these I save to put on the backs of journaling cards and tags. It just makes a beautiful writing space. Now, this looks like something that I could get some labels out of, but I'm going to check the back first. I've got a couple of fly leaves there. And these go right into a bag that I have that's called blank paper. And I always reach for that first when I want to put paper on the back of a tag. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is kind of scan the chapter titles. And this looks like it has a lot of text that might make for um, some nice labels. But the first place I'm going to look for labels is, whoops, it's in this one that I set aside already. The title pages often have all kinds of interesting interesting text. Now, would you normally save that popular edition? You might not normally do that. Guess what, friends? we're going to save it today. And I'm going to pull in this little stamping pad. That gives a little bit of an extra cushion, and it'll help me stamp a little more evenly. That'll be good. Oh, I want something maybe a little bit deeper. Maybe I'll use this for the next one down. Anyway, let's go ahead and use this as much as we can. I'll use this Stampin' Up! Blue. Sorry, I just bonked you there as I'm trying to look down. Here we go. That's one label that will be nice to have. Let's try this one. McClure Phillips and Company in New York, 1904. Might be pushing it, getting it on the edges here. But it might be just fine. Yeah, that all fits in there. And then what about the name here? Is that something? Oh, I also have here my rag so I can wipe off my stamps. They won't contaminate each other. I'll just make a big mess over here. Will this title fit in there? Aha, it will. Let's go to this deep rust color. Oops, looks like I didn't get quite enough ink there. That's squishing the ends, but that's still perfectly legible. I'm not going to take time on today's video to cut all of these out, but you get the idea, and you've probably seen me do this before. Now I can tell looking through here that this little copyright piece here is not obstructed by it's not overlapping anything that I've stamped on this side. Yeah, so that'll go. I just don't want to lose that. That is going to make a nice little label. Copyright 1901, and this is, you know, the original. This has an authenticity that I think really comes through. Sorry, I'm going to adjust my microphone here. Hopefully that didn't rattle too much. There we go. This I'm going to set aside, and I'm just going to cut those out later and add to my label stash. Let's go back to Charles here and see what else we want to harvest. I'm not going to stamp through all the labels in this book. Preface. Oh, who am I kidding? I've got to stamp that preface. I think that looks great. I'll do that in green. And that's something that would be great on any kind of a journal card, particularly at the beginning of a journal or on the inside cover. There we go. You get the idea. And I might, when I get into actually cutting these out, I very likely will go through and stamp that as well. I'll probably save this preface here. Boy, there's a lot of good label fodder here and here. So I'm going to pull these out for labels. Our Complex Life. Oh yeah, that's going to be a good label. I'm going to probably, because there's so many good chapter titles in this one, probably not going to tear them all out. I'll leave some in here because, I don't need, 1,000 saying Our Complex Life. The Simple Life and Our Complex Life. The Essence of Simplicity, that's good. I'm going to pull this out as a reminder that I have a chapter titled that way. Simplicity of Thought. Simple Needs, how about that? Oh yeah, this one is going to be very good. Yeah, when I have a major label making session, I'm really going to have fun going through this. Oh, Notoriety. Oh, shocking. How scandalous. I'm going to pull out a couple of these simple beauties. Yeah, this is going to be a very good label making book for me. Oh my. Language was different in earlier days, wasn't it? Education for Simplicity. This looks a little preachy. And conclusion. Let's pull out a couple of these conclusions. This would be good at the end. Oh, this is nice paper. I'm not going to forget this end page because there's some good fodder for labels here. I'm not certain that this McClure, Phillips and Company, I'm not certain if that will come out good as a label. And I have several of that, that text. So I'm going to see if I can make a little bit of our faux washi tape. I have my Scotch tape here, and that old-fashioned looking font might be very nice here. Let's see how that comes out. Yeah, that's going to be nice to paste on something. I like that. Isn't that nice? Whenever I make faux washi tape, I always have lots of little bits of Scotch tape that I pull off. Okay, so here are a whole lot of labels in the making, and I could spend all day using them. But I'm just going to set these aside and let's go on to our next book. I'm certainly going to, go through and use a lot of just of this text. This is going to be great and, book pages and background. So I'll probably use just about this entire piece. This is probably not one that I will use for a glue book. Sometimes some of the history books or textbooks or things that are really dry, I will use for glue books. But let's go on to our next one. I haven't even cracked the spine on this. I got this at our Friends of the Library new retail shop that's in here in southeast Portland. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the other book. I'm going to pull out this fly leaf. This one has some scratching on it, but there's plenty of blank space on this. If you wonder what I do with the covers, I do always save the covers. Sometimes I will use the covers as covers for journals of my own, but I usually keep them together, keep the text block and the cover together until I'm ready to use the cover for another journal, if that makes sense. Okay, actions and reactions. That's some good text. Let's make a little label out of that. Let's go back to this green. pushing the edges of that available space, but it still comes out looking really nice. I think that would be a nice label. That is probably something I'm going to save for some background. I kind of like that little sketch. I'm going to use a bigger stamp here to get this Doubleday and Company. I think that might be a nice label. Hope there's not too much glare there for you. Actually, I think there is too much glare there for you. It's that Doubleday that I want to get. It's one of my new stamp sets. I think that's going to be kind of a good size. But since I haven't used this yet, I don't have a lot of confidence that it's going to, well, it looks like the ink took to it pretty well. Sometimes when you use stamps the first time, they disappoint you. Let's see how this one does. Oh yeah, that one's fine. This Actions and Reactions, I think that might be a really nice writing prompt. Contents, yep, I'll do something there, but this page, I like the font. That's a nice large font, the way that those table of contents are lined up there. So let me grab contents first. That's a decent, I think I'm going to pull out a longer one. I'll do a vertical, because every once in a while a vertical stamp, actually more than every once in a while, a vertical stamp, especially of numbers, can come in really handy. Not stamp, I mean a vertical label. There we go. When you stamp when it's in the book, you have kind of a built-in cushion that takes the place of this, this little cushion that I use if I don't have a cushier surface that I'm stamping on. Pull this out, and it's going to need to be coaxed a little bit. Not certain that that's going to be a good label for me, but that's a really good blank page. Now we're going to get in. I'm going to pick up that little tiny 1905. I think that might be a nice little label. Yep, I picked up a little bit of the text there, but once it's trimmed down, it's not going to matter. I'm not certain that there's a lot that these chapter names are going to be worth pulling out for labels, but as I run across blank pages or portions of pages, I'm very likely to pull them out. And if I wanted to go back and pick up Actions and Reactions, That would be easily done. And again, I will hold on to this. This one has almost a full page, as does this one, of blank paper that could be a good journaling spot. More blank and a blank one next to it. Some of these older books, I think they might not have been under some of the economic constraints. Some of our more contemporary publishers are underneath, so they put in some of those blank pages that I don't think that they would do too much today. Going through looking for blank pages also gives you kind of a chance to kind of scan the text and see if there's anything in particular that might be sensitive or inappropriate. We have to be careful of some of these older books and the ways that they used to talk about things. Now I'm noticing that there's a lot of these dates in here. These are different essays that apparently Rudyard Kipling wrote. So I can go back and pick up quite a few of those with this tiny little stamp. Some of these tear out easily and some of them really need to be cut. And the back fly leaves. Pull out this. Oh, I'm going to pull out several here. There we go. There's a lot more that I'm going to get out of Rudyard Kipling here, but you can see that I got the potential for a lot of labels and a lot of blank paper that's going to be perfect for creating journaling spots. And I would be using it and using it for its text and that interesting font as well. Let's look at one more, shall we? This is a guide to wildflowers and trees. And of course, any kind of botanical book is always wonderful. And I particularly like finding some of these older botanical books because they have sketches in them instead of photographs. The photographs are also beautiful. But let's begin, as we have with the other books, by removing the fly leaf. This is the owner's book plate there. That's kind of attractive, but that's sort of her personal statement. So I think I'm going to let that remain personal to her. I could use this for a label or to cut out and to put on a tag or a pocket, but I think I'm more likely to use the blank page. Okay, usually really like to find the publisher's information. We'll see if this is long enough. Not quite long enough. This one I want to pick up with Scotch tape. I think I will. It's not a particularly interesting font, but I kind of like the notion of J.G. Ferguson and Associates. Sounds like a bustling place there in Chicago. Yeah, that'll be kind of cute to incorporate somewhere. We don't know where. I've been using this faux washi tape a lot. And what about just trees? I mean, it's a little stark there, but with this, I think I'll just pick up trees. And of course I'll use green for that. And while I'm here on this page, I wonder how this word guide will go with. Doesn't really fit very well in there, does it? Maybe. Guide to. Guide to what? You know what? Maybe we just save that word and we figure out how our layout or our card is going to complete the thought. I can always, if I want to use guide by itself, I can always just cut, once it's all trimmed out, I can always just butt it up against something and crop out the two. So there's a few labels. Preface, of course, you know I'm going to pick up. I'm going to do that, I think, in this one. Whoops, Anne. Wonderful to have a preface label. And since this has a fair amount of white space around it, excuse me, it can kind of serve to give a restful place if you have it in on a busy background. Excuse me, lingering cough. I think I am going to go through and probably do quite a bit of stamping here and there. Other plant life, I might go back and get that. This is one thing I enjoyed about this book, is that it does have a lot of sketches in it. So what I'm doing as I'm going through these little black and white sketches, I think that's a really cool scientific looking little sketch. And so I'm putting my cutting mat underneath here. I don't feel like having the full page cut out. And I'm going to put this in with my collection of other little sketches that I will at some point take a watercolor brush to. Lowly plant life. Ooh, look at those mushrooms. Death angel. Of course we're going to get that one. My only problem is when I go to add some watercolor accents to this, they're not going to be accurate. I'm probably going to put, orange and brown when it doesn't need to have orange and brown on it, but this little pile over here. An urn mushroom. Ooh, this is a nice find. And, oh my goodness, very interesting. Yeah, so some of these are maybe just a little too weird, but let's look and see. Oh, here's some that are nice and leafy. Another thing we can do with these sketches, and I'm going to do it with this one, is we can pick them up with Scotch tape as well. And that's another reason I always keep the Scotch tape handy if I'm harvesting a book, because there can be things that I see right away that I won't be able to find later if I go back. Yeah, and this has such a nice translucent quality. I can put that right on top of something else and it's going to look great. Just adds a little extra dimension. So that's the kind of thing I look for. I'll go through this later, and I'm not going to save all of these. but there will be some that will jump out at me, particularly the holly. That'd be great on a Christmas tag or journal. The leaves for fall, the trees, lots and lots of nice little sketches there. There we go. The index, I always save index. And do you know what? I'm just going to go pick up this is this pretty small text on this nice old page. And this is a piece that will look really nice somewhere. All those pictures all those plant names. There we go. And of course, we're at the end of the book. So what are we going to remember to get out? The flyleaf. Never leave those behind. I think this one didn't have a lot of blank pages inside. Right. So that, guys, is kind of how a look at how I go into harvesting a book. And all of these things are wonderful to have in our junk journal supply stash. We have no shortage of blank paper to do the journaling on, which is always the most important part of any junk journal anyway. And we've got lots of potential for labels, for embellishments, and that's even before we get to the wonderful page after page of text that we have in all of those. So have fun harvesting your books. It's always harvest time. See you in the next video. Bye.